So you can tell that this is an important topic when you get this many people to show up at 8:30 in the morning. And I'm very excited to be here on behalf of the Mass Bar Association. I'm the president of the Mass Bar Association. My name is Jeff Catalano. I'm going to take a chance and start off an early morning meeting with what I hope is an amusing anecdote. This morning, I left with my 16-year-old son to go to the train. We walk to the train together every morning. Correction, I walk to the train, and he sprints because he allows himself no time or very little time to make it. So this morning, I was certain he was going to miss it. I walked leisurely to the train. He sprints. I see him a distant figure. He now makes the train just in time. And I don't miss an opportunity for a fatherly lecture, and I say, look, wouldn't it be better if you gave yourself time to get someplace and not arrive where you need to be, out of breath, sweaty, etc.? And I got the typical teenage eye roll. So put a thumbtack in that. About an hour later, I'm at my desk, and I'm looking at my computer screen, and I realize, oh my God, I'm supposed to be here by 8:30, and it's 8:40. So I leave my office, sprint through the streets of Boston, arriving here out of breath and sweaty. So needless to say, I'm not going to be sharing that story with my son. Anyway, I want to welcome you today to this important talk on CORI Reform. It's been several years since CORI Reform was put in place, and we at the MBA are honored to help present this valuable discussion on CORI Reform's impact on employment and recidivism rates. The fact that we are here alongside our program partners, Mass Inc., and the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston's New England Public Policy Center shows that CORI Reform is more than merely a criminal justice issue. This is an issue touching every citizen and every business in the Commonwealth that is interested in seeing the successful reintegration of ex-offenders into our society. And I want to thank our partners in this event for allowing us to be part of it. The goal of our CORI laws is to protect public safety. The CORI Reform, put in place earlier this decade, attempted to recognize the important balance that many, including the MBA, felt was needed. A balance that reduces barriers and gives those people who have rehabilitated themselves a better chance at getting jobs and housing. Today, we will get a clearer picture of what CORI Reform has brought to this Commonwealth. We are very pleased to hear from Dr. Osborne Jackson and Dr. Bo Zhao of Boston Fed's New England Public Policy Center, who will be discussing two reports on this very topic. And we are so pleased to have an incredible panel of experts, including State Senator William Brownsberger, Senate Chair of the Joint Committee on the Judiciary, Darren Howell of Healthcare Union 1199 SEIU, Madeline Niley of the Council of State Governments, and the MBA's own Pauline Querion, who is Vice Chair of the MBA's Criminal Justice Section Council, which, by the way, is extremely active and busy this year. On behalf of the MBA, I want to thank all of you for coming this morning, and I again want to thank our partners, Mass Inc. and the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston's New England Public Policy Center for letting us be a part of this incredibly interesting forum. And now I have the pleasure of introducing one of our partners in today's program, Dr. Robert Triest. In addition to being a vice president and economist on the research department at the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, Dr. Triest is also the director of the Boston Fed's New England Public Policy Center, which promotes better public policy in New England by conducting, disseminating objective, high-quality research. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Robert Triest.
Thanks very much for that introduction, Jeff. And I'd like to especially thank our partners, Mass Bar Association and Mass Inc. Shout out to Ben Foreman, the research director here for Mass Inc. And I also want to thank the audience for attending. I think this event will be very valuable. So there's a question of, why is the Federal Reserve interested in this topic? And I view this as an integral part of what Congress has mandated us to do. So we have a dual mandate, as many people know. One is to pursue price stability, a low, stable inflation rate, and the other is to pursue maximum employment. Well, the primary way in which we pursue maximum employment is through monetary policy. So through, say, the Federal Open Market Committee meeting, as there was one last week, where they deliberate and set short-term interest rates to pursue that goal of maximum employment. But even when we smooth out the cyclical fluctuations over the business cycle and employment, there remain structural barriers to full employment. And one of those structural barriers are the barriers faced by those who have criminal records, those barriers to labor market success and employment that are faced by those with criminal records. So we view our research on CORI reform and more generally our research on the intersection between the criminal justice system and labor markets as part of our mandate in pursuit of maximum employment. So I'd like to say that, in addition to the research that's being presented today, we have more general research on the subject. So the research report that Bo and Osborne will be presenting is available here. There's also a second report that's authored by Riley Sullivan, who's here in the audience. Riley's in the back here, and policy analyst Barbara Clifford, who's not here, that shows more general patterns of arrests, convictions, location of those on probation, and discusses in New England, and discusses the barriers to employment of those with criminal records. So Riley will be available to discuss that report. Riley's also working on some further research on the topic. And like I say, the NEPPC and the Boston Fed have a long-term interest in this topic and are definitely interested in pursuing further research and engaging with partners in conducting research. I want to stress that we view CORI reform as being a very helpful policy. And I think as you'll see when Osborne and Bo present their research, it's not a magic bullet to solve the problems that those with criminal records face in the labor market. So while it's helpful and further strengthening of some of the reforms embedded in CORI Reform Massachusetts could actually make it more effective, it's clear that other policies needed to be developed in order to help integrate those with criminal records into the labor market. So our view is that this research is a first step in trying to understand what's effective, but it really points to other policies being needed to reintegrate those with criminal records. So before I turn things over to Osborne and Bo, I want to, having thanked our partners at this event, also thank those who have helped us in developing the data that made this research possible. So the Department of Criminal Justice Information Systems, especially I think Agapio Caloris, who I think is here, perhaps not, was very helpful, as well as Secretary Walker and the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development. These agencies made data available with strict privacy protections that allowed Bo and Osborne's research to be conducted. Without their help and cooperation, it wouldn't have been possible. Finally, I want to give a shout out to Darcy Sass, the Center's Deputy Director. Darcy's over here. Darcy managed the project. She worked tirelessly with our data partners to make that kind of data sharing with strict privacy controls possible, and also was the lead on our side, along with our partners at this event, in making this event possible. Okay, so now I want to turn it over to Osborne and Bo, who conducted the research we're going to be hearing about today. So Osborne's going to be presenting first, followed by Bo. Osborne and Bo are both senior economists in the New England Public Policy Center in the research department of the Boston Fed. Osborne's PhD is from University of Michigan, Bo's from Syracuse University. I'm very honored to have them both as colleagues. So Osborne?